Welcome to the Wargaming Garage and this 6,000 point narrative mission between Sisters of Battle and Death Guard. Planet of Charitas, there is the Order, the Daughters of Charity, and their Cannoness, Majella, who has been interred into the holy shrine and awaiting sainthood. But to foil those plans and raise her as a Plague Maiden, Papa Nurgle has sent the entire 2 plague companies, the Harbingers and the Inexorable. So the 6,000 point narrative battle using apocalypse rules. The whole aim of the battle is for the Death Guard to reach the shrine and raise the Cannoness as a Plague Maiden, and all they've got to do is stop the Inexorable advance of the Death Guard as they lay waste to the planet of Charitas. So in this mission, there's a few special rules that we're going to work to. So anything that gets under half strength will be considered removed, but for the Death Guard, anything that is infantry, once it gets to below half strength, can actually recycle itself, but will then have a +1 to its armour save. So on a 4 up, then a 5 up, then a 6 up. And once it gets past that, that unit will be considered completely gone and won't be back on the table. In the first turn, because of the cloud of flies that follows the Death Guard around, there'll be -1 to hit. But everything else basically is as the apocalypse rules. So the mission, we've got three sets here. There's a shrine here, there's a shrine here, and a shrine here. So as the Death Guard take those shrines, they're able to remove miracle dice from the Sisters' army. And these are the defence lines. The Sisters know they're coming. They've laid waste to this entry point into the shrine. And they're waiting with their defence lines, their walls of martyrs, as they defend whilst they await the sainthood of Cannoness Majella. The Sisters are running as Order of the Valorous Heart, so they'll be reducing the AP by 1. And as we say, we've got the Harbingers and the Inexorable as play companies. We couldn't actually fit everything on the table to begin with. That's why Mortarion and a squad of Blight Lords are actually in reserve at the moment. So it could be Jason and I versus Gary. And the Death Guard get first turn. So with that, on to battle round 1. So just at the end of the movement phase, today I'm going to just literally be summarising because there's too much to roll. So everything's moved up to the lines of the Sisters. The bloke drones advanced over both this side and on the left hand flank as well. Dreadnoughts right up into the lines, Poxwalkers starting to harass the Repentia and the Battle Sisters squad. So the only things not moving really are the PBCs at the back and the Predators. So that being said, we'll come back after shooting.
Early Island, can we all go over to?
So at the end of turn 1, it's been a pretty brutal start to the Death Guard. We've managed to clear this first line of the defences. So we've got the all that's left along this front set of defences is the Immolator. Happens to be on full wounds. But in retaliation, the Sisters managed to clear a couple of Plague Marines. They've popped all 3 of the bloat drones and a Blight Hauler. So, and with those unable to return to the field, it's starting to make inroads into the heavy armoured divisions of both the Plague Marines, the Death Guard, Plague companies. So in terms of orbital barrage, we managed to get rid of one of the Exorcists, and in the orbital barrage managed to get rid of and reduce down to 1 wound one of the Mephitic Blight Haulers.
And the Decimator.
And the Decimator, that's right, the Decimator is now down to a couple of wounds remaining. So it's all to play for. There's a lot of ground to make up over this no man's land here for the Death Guard. So we'll have to see what we intend to do to clear that gap, but it could leave us exposed for another round of shooting from the Sisters as this second line start to bring their weapons to bear. So that's end of turn 1. Loads of fun being had so far. Lots of death. The dead pile for the Sisters is mounting up already. But on to turn 2. So at the end of the movement phase for turn 2, Death Guard have advanced pretty much as much over the defence line as we could. It's going to be interesting because it does leave a whole turn of a set of exposed troops, but we'll see what happens. We have dropped the Blight Lords into no man's land in an effort to advance some troops up, perhaps with a cheeky charge at the end of the phase to get into this line of troops here and start clearing the paths. So let's see what happens. We'll go on to psychic and shooting and come back after all that lot. So see you in a bit. So at the end of turn 2, the Death Guard have moved up slightly. We took out the Immolator in combat and managed to do a little bit of movement further up the field with this squad of Plague Marines and Blight Lords. The unit of Blight Lords were taken out, so we'll regenerate those in the next command phase. But there's been a collapse of this left-hand side flank for the Death Guard up here, so we managed to get rid of the Paladin Warsuits, the Immolator, the Exorcist, but in retaliation we lost some of the Demon Engines down this side as well. So although it has opened up this flank, there's still a long way for the Death Guard to move up this battlefield. But with Mortarion still due to make his presence felt on the battle grid, let's see what happens for the Death Guard in turn 3. So at the end of the Death Guard movement phase, we've had a lot of movement on this left-hand flank, just standard movement, bringing these into line and bringing the weapons to bear on this second rank of sisters, stoically defending the next shrine. On the right-hand side flank for the Death Guard, everything pretty much advanced bar the squad of Terminators over on the far side, though they were able to regenerate because we're below half strength. We've taken this shrine, which has removed a miracle dice from the sisters pool, and we've also got this shrine as well. So they're maintaining there and starting to take over the field. So that being said, has Mortarion not come down this turn? We're leaving him another turn.
We're getting into third 3, so
Yeah.
I think sooner or later we're going to have to make that decision, because we can't leave it until after turn 4.
No. So let's see why we do with clearing this lot up here, and then we'll go from there. If you get that, then he's got a bit more space to be.
Yeah. It's causing an annoyance.
So Morty's going to be right down at the end then. So with that, we'll move on to the psychic and shooting and everything else phase. We'll come back after. So at the start of turn 4, the Death Guard are slowly making their way across the battle sector. They're making their way through the second line of defence. So all of the sisters are starting to fall on this second line, with orbital bombardments coming in and taking out the Sacrosancts down to half strength on 2 of the units, and removing some of the Seraphim at the back here. There's every chance for Mortarion to start coming in and dealing with some of the pain. So, start of turn 4. Death Guard are moving their way up. The war of attrition is carrying on, and the sisters are starting to be tested on their very last line of defence. So let's see what happens in turn 4. So on the droning of membranous wings, Morty lands and starts putting pressure on the sisters as they try to protect Cannoness Majella, but she starts to writhe and shake inside the casket that she's interred into, and all around smoke starts to billow, eruptions of pox and bile as he makes his presence felt. The rest of the Death Guard pressing forward in the lines, coming through onto the second phase of the defensive line. So let's see what happens in turn 4. Okay, so at the end of turn 4, a really valiant effort. The squads of Seraphim and Sephirim went into Morty, but he managed to clear them all down. But in their despair at hearing the casket of shake and rattle, the Sacrosancts swarmed around the casket in order to sacrifice themselves in an effort to save Cannoness Majella from becoming a Plague Maiden. The Death Guard continued to swarm across the battle sector, across the plains of Charitas, as they head towards the interred body of the Cannoness to bring her into their fold. So, at the end of the battle, Mortarion clears the way. The Death Shroud, the Lords of Contagion, the plague casters all gather round the casket. Mortarion and Grandfather Nurgle sacrifice the Death Shroud, they sacrifice the plague casters, and that, combined with all the blood shed and spilt here in the sisters' vain attempt, raises Cannoness Majella as a Plague Maiden to serve Nurgle and spread the sickness in his world. And that ends the story of the last stand of Charitas, where the Death Guard lay waste to the whole planet in order to gain the favour of Nurgle, and for Nurgle to gain a new Plague Maiden. So join us again on the Wargaming Garage. Hope you enjoyed that. It's a bit of a short order game, or short order format, but thoroughly enjoyable time, a thoroughly enjoyable game, and see you next time.